something extraordinary is unfolding. Across private prayer circles, scholarly research, and the accounts of mystics whose words have endured for generations, one particular window of time keeps rising to the surface, and we are living inside it right now. Prophetic voices spanning centuries pointed toward a period of radical, accelerating spiritual change. Not slow shifts. Not gradual evolution. An acceleration. And the evidence that we have crossed into that acceleration is everywhere, if you know what to look for. This is not about stirring up panic or feeding a cycle of fear. Quite the opposite. What the great saints and seers left behind for us is not a horror story, it is a survival guide written in the language of mercy. Their revelations were meant to wake us up while there is still ample time to respond. And as we stand in this particular moment of history, the convergence of what they described and what we are actually witnessing on the global stage is too precise to dismiss. Consider the prophecies surrounding Garabandal, those powerful revelations given in a small Spanish village that have fascinated theologians and ordinary believers alike for decades. The events described there, particularly what has come to be known as the warning, speak of a moment when every living soul will experience an interior illumination. Not a vision in the sky. Not a catastrophic external event. Something far more personal. Each person, regardless of their faith or lack of it, will see their own soul exactly as it stands before God, with full clarity, no filters, no excuses, no illusions. Every choice, every wound inflicted, every grace accepted or rejected, laid bare in an instant of divine honesty. Now layer onto that the warnings left to us through Padre Pio of Pietrelcina, a man whose life was a walking sign of the supernatural. He saw things. He prayed people back from the edge of death. He bore the wounds of Christ for half a century. And he insisted, repeatedly, that the most powerful preparation any soul could make was not complicated. He pointed to prayer, not as a religious formality, but as the actual mechanism by which heaven intervenes in human affairs. He called it the most effective weapon we possess. That word, weapon, is striking. He was not describing something passive. He was describing an active force that changes outcomes. So what does any of this have to do with this specific moment we are living through right now? Quite a lot, as it turns out. When you trace the timelines laid out in these prophetic traditions, a cluster of years emerges as a potential hinge point in history. Not a date attached to doom, but a threshold, a moment where the direction of humanity's collective spiritual journey becomes more sharply defined. The choice between deepening into authentic faith versus doubling down on pure materialism stops being subtle. The contrast sharpens. And according to the pattern these seers described, that sharpening is not punishment. It is mercy, the same kind a loving parent offers when they finally sit a wayward child down and speak plainly. What makes the current moment so compelling for those paying close attention is the unusual alignment between geopolitical upheaval and natural disruption. We have grown almost numb to crisis, economic instability, conflicts erupting in places that have been flashpoints for centuries, environmental patterns shifting in ways that scientists and farmers and fishermen are all describing with a note of unease that was not present a generation ago. The prophetic tradition does not explain away these disruptions as random. It frames them as a kind of spiritual pressure, divine urgency pressing through the fabric of the physical world, calling attention to something deeper. Saint Padre Pio once wrote that the soul that prays is like a city with strong walls. The enemy can press from the outside, but the interior remains unshaken. That image is worth sitting with right now. Because what the prophetic timeline is ultimately describing is not a world being destroyed, it is a world being offered the chance to remember what it actually is. Spiritual beings in a material world, not the other way around. The anxiety that so many people carry right now, a vague, persistent sense that something enormous is coming, is not necessarily a symptom of weakness. It may be a form of spiritual perception. An intuition that history is bending towards something significant. The messages associated with Our Lady across multiple approved apparitions consistently point in the same direction. They do not dwell on catastrophe. They dwell on return to prayer, return to scripture, return to sacramental life, return to one another in genuine charity. The structure of these messages is almost always the same. Here's what is unfolding, here's why, here's what protects you, here's what you can do starting today. That is not the language of despair. That is the language of a mother who sees what her children are walking toward and refuses to stay silent. Understanding the prophetic timeline, then, is not about becoming obsessed with future events. It is about making sense of the present moment in a way that produces peace rather than paralysis. When you know that a storm is coming, preparation feels purposeful rather than frantic. You are not running from something, you are moving towards something. And what the saints unanimously moved toward was greater intimacy with God, deeper charity with neighbors, and a consistent, unhurried practice of prayer that became the bedrock of their daily lives regardless of what chaos swirled around them. There is also something profoundly liberating in the theological framework that underlies all of this. If the prophetic voices are correct, and their track record across centuries gives us serious reason to consider them carefully, then nothing that is unfolding in the world right now is catching heaven off guard. Not the political upheaval. Not the moral confusion. Not the technological disruption that is reshaping how human beings relate to truth, to each other, and to themselves. All of it is held within a plan that is older than any of it. And within that plan, the role of every individual soul is not passive observation. It is active participation, through prayer, through acts of love, through the quiet, daily work of becoming the kind of person whose life is itself a sign of hope. This is ultimately what the great mystical tradition of the Church has always insisted upon. The soul that is grounded, anchored in Scripture, nourished by the sacraments, practicing genuine charity, consistent in prayer, is not shaken by external events the way an unrooted soul is. It bends in the wind of history, but it does not break. The roots hold. And in a time when many things that seemed permanent are visibly shifting, the invitation to go deeper into that rootedness is not retreat. It is strategy. So consider this a reminder. Not a warning sounded to produce dread, but a clear, urgent, compassionate call to take your interior life seriously right now. The timeline does not belong to us to control. The response does. Every rosary prayed, every mass attended, every genuine act of forgiveness extended to someone who has wronged you, these are not small things. In the logic of the prophetic tradition, they are exactly the kinds of acts that shift the spiritual atmosphere, that hold back darker outcomes, that contribute to the purification being a pathway to renewal rather than simply a passage through pain. The mystics who saw these things were not morbid people. Padre Pio laughed. He was known for a biting wit and genuine warmth. The visionaries of Garabandal were children playing in a village square when heaven broke through. Our Lady, in every authenticated apparition, comes with a radiant expression of love, not severity. The tone of all authentic prophetic tradition is not grim. It is urgent in the way that love is urgent. It presses because it cares. It warns because the alternative to warning is indifference, and indifference is the one thing love cannot offer. So wherever you are in your spiritual life right now, whether you are someone who prays daily and finds this content a confirmation of what you have already been sensing, or someone who is searching for something solid to hold on to in the middle of a world that keeps shifting, the invitation is the same. Come closer. Deepen your practice. Trust the promises that have been passed down through the communion of saints across 20 centuries of tested, suffering, joyful, persevering faith. The light that has never been extinguished is still burning. And it will not go out.